Welcome to this episode of High Magic Practices, where we begin our journey into the foundational teachings of the Golden Dawn tradition. This installment is part of the First Knowledge Lecture, specifically tailored for those entering the Neophyte grade. In this episode, we explore one of the most essential and profound symbols in Hermetic Kabbalah, the Sefirot of the Tree of Life. The Sefirot or Sefirot are the 10 emanations that embody divine attributes, serving as channels through which the infinite manifests into the universe. Each individual emanation is referred to as a Sephira or Sfiha. Together, they form the framework of the Tree of Life, interconnected by 22 paths, collectively known in Kabbalistic tradition as the 32 Paths of Wisdom. More than abstract metaphysical ideas, the Sefirot embody the inner architecture of existence. Each Sephira is a reflection of divine essence and a mirror through which we can understand ourselves, because, as the tradition teaches, humanity is made in the image of the divine. Their arrangement is no accident. It is a perfect pattern of balance and symmetry, flowing from the unmanifest through the three negative veils of existence, like one candle lighting another, without ever diminishing the source. As we go deeper into this episode, we'll break down each Sephira, explore its symbolism, function, and how it relates to your personal path of spiritual awakening. This is more than theory, it's a practical map for transformation, a cosmic key to unlocking the mysteries of creation. 10 Sephiroth, spheres or nodes, compose the Tree of Life in Kabbalah. The tree is a symbolic map of divine emanation, where the Sephiroth are interconnected by 22 paths. The three pillars, mercy, severity, and the middle pillar, form its structural framework, organizing the Sephiroth into dynamic columns of energy that interact to manifest creation. On the right-hand side, we have the pillar of mercy, sometimes called the pillar of force. This pillar includes Hahama, wisdom, Hesed, mercy, and Netza, victory. It's associated with masculine, active, and expansive energy, forward-moving, creative, and radiant. It corresponds to the white pillar in Golden Dawn temple arrangements. On the left-hand side, we find the pillar of severity, also called the pillar of form. This includes Binar's understanding, Gevuha's severity, and Hod, splendor. This pillar is feminine, receptive, and contractive. It shapes, limits, and gives structure. It's associated with the black pillar, representing containment and discipline. And standing between them is the middle pillar, the pillar of mildness or balance. It includes Keter, the crown, Tifereth or Tif-Ehet, beauty, Yesod, foundation, and Mohut, the kingdom. This pillar mediates between the two extremes, balancing force and form, activity and passivity. In ritual work, it represents the path of the aspirant, the harmonization of opposites within the self. It's important to note that these opposing pillars are not about good versus evil. Instead, they reflect the dual currents that power the universe. Think of it like the poles of a magnet or the yin and yang of Taoism. Life exists between these polarities, and the spiritual work of the adept is to find and maintain equilibrium, the essence of the middle pillar. In Golden Dawn temples, you'll see the left and right pillars physically represented. But the middle pillar is not a structure. It is you, the seeker, standing at the center, striving for inner alignment. Schools of Kabbalistic thought assign masculine or feminine attributes to the Sephiroth, though interpretations often conflict. These disagreements sustain the system's vitality, ensuring it remains dynamic and evolves over time. Some authors have held strong views about the sexual polarities for certain Sephiroth, only to revise their views as understanding of the Tree of Life deepens. In truth, each Sephira embodies an abstraction blending qualities of both masculine and feminine energies. None exists in purely binary terms. This exploration focuses on the sexual polarities of the Sephiroth through the lens of the three primary elements: fire as masculine, water as feminine, and air as neutral or androgynous. Let's begin at the top of the tree with the crown Keter and descend together through its emanations. Keter is the first Sephira on the Tree of Life, located at the summit of the middle pillar. It sits at the edge of the three negative veils of existence and represents the primal point of origin, the moment before creation began. It is the crown, the undivided unity, and the purest expression of divinity from which all things emanate. This episode will not explore the deeper details of three veils above Keter in the Tree of Life, known as Ein Nothingness, Ein Sof, the Infinity, and Ein Sopho, endless light. For now, you can understand them as representing the unknowable nature of the divine, utterly transcendent, and existing prior to creation itself. Numerically, Keter is associated with the number 1, the indivisible monad. Pythagoras described it as containing within itself all other numbers. It is the seed of all manifestation, the spark from which multiplicity arises through reflection and differentiation. Through this process, Keter generates the rest of the tree, but it itself remains unchanged, silent, ineffable, and complete. In the Sefirot, Book of Formation, Keter is called the admirable or hidden intelligence and the highest crown, for it is the light that gives the power of comprehension of that first principle which has no beginning. It is the primal glory, inaccessible to any created being. This speaks to its nature as the source of all light and consciousness, yet utterly beyond direct experience or grasp. Its hiddenness is not from secrecy, but from transcendence. Keter is not masculine or feminine, it is androgynous, containing within itself the pure potential of both. It is the archetypal unity before duality. As the primum mobile, the first whirlings of manifestation, it initiates the movement of creation, the divine breath that echoes down the tree through increasingly defined forms. In alchemical terms, the energy of Keter descends through the Sefirot, transforming from subtle spiritual essence into material reality. And just as all things emanate from Keter, so too do they return to it in the cycle of spiritual ascent. No physical being can fully grasp or merge with Keter's essence, while bound to the limitations of form. However, through spiritual purification and transcendence of thought, one may glimpse the divine white brilliance, the first glimmer of the source, and gain insight into the first principle. Keter is the sphere of unity, peace, and absolute being, the beginning and the end of the spiritual journey. Ha-Hama is the second Sefirah on the Tree of Life, representing the first outflow of divine energy from Keter. Its name, Wisdom, expresses the dynamic, generative impulse that follows the stillness of the crown. If Keter is the primordial point of undivided unity, Ha-Hama is that point extended into motion, the first vector, the straight line, the initiation of duality. In the Sefirot, Ha-Hama is called the illuminating intelligence, the crown of creation, the splendor of unity, equal to it. This means that although it is a second emanation, it reflects the fullness of the first. Ha-Hama doesn't diminish Keter's light, it radiates it, actively expressing the unity of Keter in dynamic form. It is the moment when the divine begins to become self-aware, emanating from itself and simultaneously witnessing its own emanation. Ha-Hama stands at the top of the pillar of mercy, the right-hand pillar, balancing the feminine force of Binah across the tree. While Keter is androgynous, Ha-Hama is distinctly masculine, not in the biological sense, but as the archetype of active force, expansion, and creative impulse. It represents the fiery, initiating principle of the cosmos. In alchemical or elemental terms, it corresponds to fire. As the supernal father, or Abba, Ha-Hama is not only the source of creative motion, but also the vehicle for projecting divine will into form. It's not raw, instinctual energy, but focused, conscious power. This is why its symbol includes the Yod, the smallest Hebrew letter and the root of all others, signifying the seed of creation. Though Ha-Hama is a vessel of immense energy and potential, it is still abstract. Its force has yet to be shaped or given form. That role belongs to Binah, the third Sefirah, which receives the outpouring of Ha-Hama and gives it structure. Ha-Hama's placement among the supernals, the upper triad on the tree, reflects its exalted status, beyond the abyss, beyond concrete manifestation. It is the active face of divine unity, the cosmic catalyst from which all further differentiation flows. Binah is the third Sefirah on the Tree of Life, and the first to embody the principle of form. Her name, understanding, reflects her essential function, the power to give structure to the boundless force that flows from Hahama, where Hahama is the supernal father, Abba, the dynamic, active principle, Binah is the supernal mother, Ima, the receptive and shaping aspect of divine creation. Binah sits atop the pillar of severity, the left-hand pillar of the tree. It is associated with the element of water, the passive principle, yet this receptivity is not weakness. It is the necessary container through which creation becomes possible. Just as an electric current requires both positive and negative poles, so does the creative current of the tree require both Hahama and Binah to function. Binah receives Hahama's outpouring and gives it boundaries, turning potential into direction. In this context, the term negative is used in the classical, scientific sense as polarity, not judgment. Binah is the great archetypal womb, the cosmic matrix that molds raw divine energy into the foundation of reality. In alchemical terms, she is the vase, the vessel, where transformation begins. Her name begins with the Hebrew letter Bet, which means house and represents containment, form and dwelling, qualities that describe her essence perfectly. As the number 3, Binah marks the appearance of Trinity, force Keter, motion Hahama, and form Binah. Her energy introduces limitation, which is essential for creation to take shape. This is not repression but discipline. Binah is the dark and severe mother who imposes boundaries to bring order out of chaos. Without her, Hahama's energy would remain wild and undirected. The Sefer XII describes Binah as the sanctifying intelligence, which implies her sacred role in the formation of the universe. It also refers to her as the creator of faith, for true faith arises from understanding, not blind belief, but the deep, intuitive grasp of divine principles that underpin reality. The text connects her roots to Amen, meaning firm, faithful, and so be it, an affirmation of Binah's link to the ultimate source, Keter. While Hahama is wisdom in its expansive, infinite aspect, Binah is understanding, the ability to comprehend, to internalize, and to give wisdom shape. In mystical terms, she is the supernal archetype of Saturn. Limitation, structure, time, and destiny. Yet she is also the womb of all that will ever exist, the sacred void from which form arises. Together, Hahama and Binah are the Elohim of Genesis, the divine polarity whose union gives birth to the manifest universe. They are the foundational dyad through which Keter's unity becomes the dynamic tension that drives all creation. The abyss is the vast and critical gulf that divides the supernal triad, Keter, Hahama, and Binah, from the lower 7 Sefirot of the Tree of Life. It marks a fundamental shift in the nature of being, from the divine, ineffable consciousness of the supernals to the structured realm of ideas and forms that the human mind can grasp. This division is not just symbolic, it represents the boundary between the eternal and the temporal, between the pure archetypes of divine emanation and the individuated expressions of existence. The supernals operate in realms that transcend duality and ego. To approach them, one must undergo inner transformation, shedding the limitations of personality, intellect, and identity. In mystical traditions, crossing the abyss refers to the act of dissolving the ego and uniting with the higher self, often described as a spiritual death, followed by rebirth into a higher state of consciousness. This journey is said to be perilous, not because of physical danger, but because it requires a complete undoing of the self as we know it. Within the abyss lies Dat, or knowledge. Though it appears in some diagrams of the tree, it is not considered one of the 10 Sefirot. Dat acts as a hidden doorway or bridge across the abyss. It symbolizes the moment where the divine becomes self-aware, the point where the energy of Hahama and Binah unites, producing the knowledge of separation and identity. Dat is sometimes experienced as a veil, sometimes as a portal. Mystics warn, however, that mistaking knowledge for wisdom can cause one to become lost in the abyss, especially if the ego tries to claim divinity for itself. In Kabbalistic texts, this fall into the abyss is represented by the Neophyte, the shadow side of the Tree of Life. To cross the abyss is to encounter the limits of the intellect and pass beyond them into the silence of pure being. It is the great threshold between the manifest and the unmanifest, between the soul's potential and its realization. Hesed is the fourth Sephirah on the tree of life, sitting just below the abyss on the pillar of mercy. It marks a significant transition. This is the first sphere within the manifest world, where divine energy begins to take stable, comprehensible form, whereas the supernal triad deals with pure archetypal principles that are beyond the grasp of the rational mind. Hesed represents the entry point of divine energy into structured existence. Hesed's function is expansive and constructive. It receives the disciplined force from Binah and recharges it with renewed vitality, preparing it for the work of actual formation. This is where the ideas born in the supernal realm begin to acquire a framework that can eventually manifest in reality. Hesed is the blueprint for creation, where divine intention becomes pattern and order. In terms of polarity, Hesed reflects the energies of Hahama, but at a more accessible and structured level. While Hahama is the cosmic impulse, Hesed tempers that energy with mercy and direction. It represents the archetype of the benevolent ruler, the wise king or teacher who rules with compassion rather than tyranny. It's associated with Jupiter, the planet of expansion, justice, and benevolence. Despite being on the masculine pillar, the pillar of mercy, Hesed operates with a receptive, nurturing character. It blends the polarities of masculine and feminine by embodying the potential to create form, thus participating in the ongoing dance of force and form that defines the dynamics of the tree. As the cohesive intelligence, Hesed holds and organizes the divine virtues it has received, acting as a vessel through which the higher energies continue their descent. The Sefer Yetzirah describes Hesed as containing all the holy powers, emphasizing its role as a spiritual reservoir. These powers are not diminished as they pass through Hesed. Rather, they are preserved and prepared for the next stage of emanation. It is here that divine love, law, and expansion find expression in the architecture of the cosmos, whether through societies, systems, or sacred geometry. Hesed is foundational for the material universe. Without it, divine will would remain abstract and unstructured. With it, the infinite begins to take shape, readying itself to be tempered and further defined by its twin opposite, Gevuha. Gevuha is the fifth Sephirah, situated below Binah on the left-hand pillar. It translates to strength or severity, and is also known as justice and fear. Of all the Sefirot, Gevuha is arguably the least understood and most feared. However, the natural order of the universe depends on a balance of opposites. While Hesed embodies mercy and form building, Gevuha introduces the necessary rigor and destruction to maintain harmony. Gevuha's function is to break down the forms established by Hesed and apply discipline through the purging fire. Any energy that descends the tree of life into the material world must be tested and tempered by Gevuha's fiery discipline. This purging process ensures that only the purest energies remain, much like how a metal's blade must endure the heat of the blacksmith's furnace to become strong and sharp. This destructive force is not inherently evil, it is vital to evolution. Without Gevuha, the merciful love of Hesed would deteriorate into weakness and fragility. Though often regarded as masculine in its fiery nature, Gevuha shares a connection with Binah, the restrictive, disciplinary force of wisdom. While Binah is associated with water, Gevuha manifests as fire. Some interpretations even suggest Gevuha as a feminine energy, embodying the fierce determination and strength of a mother protecting her child. Its dynamic force is essential for maintaining the flow of divine energy from Keter, and it ensures that nothing corrupts this sacred current. In the Sefer Yetzirah, Gevuha is described as the radical intelligence, an energy that unites with Binah, drawing from the primordial depths of wisdom, Hahama. The term radical here indicates a foundational or fundamental force. Gevuha's influence on the material world bears a striking resemblance to the overflowing energy of Keter, the source of all manifestation. It represents a necessary union of opposites, Hesed's mercy and Gavuha's severity, allowing for balanced creation and transformation. Tif Erhet, the sixth Sephira, is known as beauty. Positioned at the very center of the tree of life on the middle pillar, the column of equilibrium, it draws the powers from all other Sephiroth. Tif Erhet strikes a perfect harmony between the mercy of Hesed and the severity of Gavuha, balancing both benevolent and aggressive energies. Its central position aligns it with Keter, mirroring the purity of the crown but on a deeper, more manifest level. By uniting mercy and justice, Tif Erhet brings forth beauty. The Sefer Yetzirah refers to Tif Erhet as the mediating intelligence, describing it as a channel through which the emanations flow into all the blessings. This reinforces Tif Erhet's role as a mediator, linking the higher and lower aspects of being, the higher self and the lower self. Tif Erhet serves as a two-way switch, receiving divine influxes from above and directing those influences into the lower realms. Its neutral position on the central pillar, combined with its androgynous nature, allows these energies to combine, multiply, and manifest. Until now, the Sefirot have been described primarily in terms of force and form, macrocosmic archetypes that may seem distant. However, in Tif Erhet, this shifts as the sphere directly relates to human experience. From Tif Erhet onward, the effects of the Sefirot are more readily felt in human consciousness rather than abstract polarities, with the lower Sefirot symbolizing aspects of the lower self or personality. Tif Erhet is known as the place of the reconciler or redeemer, where divine figures such as Christ, Buddha, and Osiris are often associated. It mediates between the Godhead in Keter and the material world, serving as a link or point of transition between higher and lower states of being. Tif Erhet reconciles the spiritual and material realms, interceding between these different levels of existence. As a mystical sphere, Tif Erhet represents the vision of the harmony of things. The higher self, or holy guardian angel, resides in Tif Erhet, which is seen as the mirror of Keter, the divine self. The ultimate goal of spiritual experience is the search for the light, attained through devotion to the great work. Tif Erhet is the sphere of illumination and healing, embodying the Christ consciousness that guides one toward enlightenment. Netzah, the seventh Sephira, is known as victory and resides on the right-hand pillar of the tree of life. It is closely tied to human consciousness and experience, especially regarding emotions, instincts, and desires. This sphere represents the feeling side of the personality, often likened to the right hemisphere of the human brain, where creativity is born. Netzah embodies the emotional and instinctual forces that drive us, encompassing a wide range of feelings, both positive and negative. While Netzah is often described as a masculine fiery force, it is balanced by its opposite, Hod, a more intellectual and rational water sphere. The energy of Netzah is dynamic and inspiring, driving artistic expression and emotional responses. Art, music, dance, poetry, all are the manifestations of Netzah's energy. It is a sphere where both beauty and love are born, but also anger and hate, as all emotions reside here. The Sefer Yetzirah describes Netzah as the occult intelligence, referring to the hidden aspects of our divine nature. This hidden intelligence is something we must uncover, as it lies veiled by mundane distractions. The refulgent splendor of intellectual virtues in this sphere is the divine light filtered through Tif Erhet, which is then broken into many aspects for manifestation. The eyes of the intellect allude to Ha-Hama, the wisdom that resides at the top of the pillar of mercy, while contemplation of faith refers to the devotion and inner work required for spiritual growth. Netzah, as the dwelling place of emotions and instincts, plays a crucial role in balancing our inner world. Its dynamic force not only fuels creativity, but also holds the emotional power that drives collective action, making it the realm of the group mind, the shared reservoir of symbols and images that inspire humanity's most creative expressions. Hod, the eighth Sephira, is located at the bottom of the pillar of severity and represents splendor or glory. While Netzah is associated with raw instinct and emotion, Hod corresponds to the intellectual mind, the left brain responsible for logic, organization, and categorization. This sphere governs language, communication, science, magic, and all forms of written expression. It is here that the individual mind resides, in contrast to the group mind of Netzer, providing a sense of personal relationship to the divine. Hod is a lower form of the energy found in Hesed, mediated through Tif Ehet. It is a watery, feminine, and fluidic energy, which complements the fiery, passionate force of Netzer. The two spheres work in a symbiotic relationship, with Hod giving structure and order to the emotional and instinctual impulses of Netzer. Without the intellect of Hod, the emotions of Netzer could become chaotic and unfocused, while without the emotions of Netzer, Hod's rationality would be uninspired and mechanical. The Sefer Yetzirah refers to Hod as the absolute or perfect intelligence, positioning it as a mediator between the primordial forces of force and form. It is described as the mean or median of these extremes, representing a balanced state of intellectual energy. This concept is also reflected in astrology, where Hod corresponds to a position of intellectual dignity, a place where the mind can function at its highest potential. At its root, Hod is connected to the sphere of Hesed, or Gedula magnificence, which is the source of its essence. This connection underscores Hod's role in grounding the dynamic energy of Netzer and bringing order to the passions of the emotional world. For a balanced personality, the energies of both Netzer and Hod must function in harmony, ensuring a healthy integration of intellect and emotion. Yesod, the ninth Sephira, meaning foundation, is the third sphere on the middle pillar. It represents the union of Netzer and Hod, and its spiritual experience is the vision of the universe's underlying machinery. Yesod is the sphere of the astral light, or Aksha, the etheric substance that underlies all dense matter. This astral matrix is the foundation upon which the physical universe is constructed. Events, whether natural or man-made, first occur in the ethers of Yesod before they manifest in the physical world. Yesod serves as a receptacle for influences from all the preceding Sefirot, combining them into an etheric blueprint for manifestation. It acts as the foundation or etheric double, the blueprint for the material plane. In the same way that all planetary forms were first conceived in the mind of God, Yesod is the place where all creations, inventions, and ideas begin before becoming physical reality. This Sephira is also the seat of intuition in humans, and most magical practices take place within Yesod. Magicians seek to influence physical reality by manipulating the subtle currents of the astral light, which flows through this sphere. Yesod is androgynous, but also embodies sexual energy. It is in Yesod that the concept of gender takes form for the first time before manifesting in the physical world. At this stage on the tree, Yesod can be likened to a pregnant mother preparing to give birth, the culmination of all Sephirotic influences above it, resulting in the birth of the manifest universe. The Sefer Yetzirah states that the ninth path is the pure intelligence, so called because it purifies the spheres, it proves and corrects the designing of their representation, and disposes their unity with which they are combined without diminution or division. This means that Yesod purifies and corrects the emanations from the higher spheres, ensuring they fit into a vehicle of dense matter. Although the emanations flowing down the tree are pure, Yesod ensures they are properly ordered and ready for manifestation in the physical world, preserving their original purity. Mohut, meaning the kingdom, is the 10th and final Sephira on the Tree of Life, positioned at the bottom of the central pillar. It represents the ultimate sphere of form and final manifestation, the physical universe as we experience it. Mohut is the realm of humanity and sensation, the material world in which we live. Mohut's physical representation is the planet Earth, our very own terra firma. It is the seat of matter and the culmination of the energetic forces from all the other Sephiroth. Mohut is the realm where all four elements manifest: fire, water, air, and earth. These elements express themselves in three states of matter: solids earth, liquids water, and gas air, while fire corresponds to the principle of electricity. The energy flowing through Mohut is the result of all the influences from the preceding Sefirot, and Mohut's role is to ground these energies into physical matter. While the other spheres are kinetic and dynamic, Mohut is the only sphere that achieves stability and inertia, a state of rest. It is also the only sphere not part of a triad. Mohut serves as a container for the emanations of the other 9 Sefirot. As the sphere of form and passivity, it is sometimes referred to as the inferior mother, in contrast to Binah, the great mother, the bride, or the queen. It is also called the gate, as it marks the threshold between life and death. When we leave our bodies, we pass through this gate. The 10th Sephira is both the completion of the tree of life and the beginning of a new tree at a different level. Mohut reflects Keter, the first Sephira, and in this sense, Mohut is the Keter of another tree. The Sefer XII states that the 10th path is the resplendent intelligence, so called because it is exalted above every head and sits on the throne of Binah. It illuminates the splendor of all the lights and causes an influence to emanate from the Prince of Countenances, the Angel of Keter. The title Resplendent Intelligence underscores the close relationship between Mohut and Keter, the first and last spheres on the tree. At this point, the emanations are completed, resulting in the brilliance of the unified tree of life. Mohut then becomes Keter of another tree at a higher level of manifestation. The connection to Binah further emphasizes the relationship between the Great Mother Binah and the Lesser Mothers Mohut, as the former gives primordial form and the latter completes the final form. That's all for today. Remember that high magic practices will support and deepen your understanding of the Tree of Life and its spheres. Patreon supporters gain access to our structured guide, the 10 Sefirot, which includes key attributes, correspondences, and reflective prompts for each Sephira. Think of it as a map for navigating the layered wisdom of the tree, designed to clarify complex ideas and empower your personal or group practice. If you're ready to dive deeper or want a trusted tool to revisit these teachings, join our Patreon community to unlock this guide and other exclusive content. Your spiritual growth is a lifelong journey, and we're here to help you walk the path with clarity. Don't miss the next episode, where we'll dive into Section 6, the Hebrew alphabet. Hebrew is the primary alphabet of Western magic, where each letter serves as a sacred symbol that attracts real forces, which the magician can harness through visualization and vibration techniques. If you enjoyed this episode, please like, subscribe, and share it with fellow magicians. Your support on Patreon or PayPal helps us continue creating exclusive content for your magical journey. Until next time, remember, the path to enlightenment is a journey of 1,000 steps, each one taken with intention and love.